Biglino's literal reading and interpretation of the Hebrew Bible is the most controversial part of his research. According to theological interpretation and deeming everything true and realistic, like Jesus walking on water, leads Biglino into believing that an unknown civilization called Elohim may have arrived on our planet and shared their DNA with us when we were still apes to continue their species. All the ancient civilizations tell us that the sons of the stars created us, states Biglino when comparing the Hebrew Bible with other scriptures and mythologies. Biglino argues that the biblical Hebrew has no words that describe the concept of creating from nothing and the concept of eternity, and that the Bible starts with Bereshit, which means in the beginning of this story, not the beginning of the world. Biglino argues that in the beginning, an unknown species called Elohim came to our planet, and that they created a fenced botanical garden with all kinds of fruits in Eden, located between Anatolia and the Caspian Sea. The Elohim then took Adam from the outside world. They did not create Adam and put him to work in it, creating Eva through clonation of his DNA from the rib or iliac crest because Adam was having sexual intercourse with all the animals in the Garden of Eden. According to Biglino, the Elohim created men with their Tselem, which is something material that contains their image, which was Tselem, cut or extracted from the young male Elohim. The Elohim were purifying their blood, extracting their Tselem, then injecting it into the Homo erectus to create the Homo sapiens. Or probably, the Elohim, mentioned as the sons of God in Genesis 6:1-2, may have shared their DNA through sexual intercourse with our ancestors. Early humans lived over 900 years, but when the Elohim stopped sharing their DNA, the human lifespan dropped to 120. Biglino argues that there's not only one Garden of Eden, but many, one of which is the Garden of Alcinous, described by Homer in the Odyssey, where there was no summer or winter. The food was being produced continuously and artificially. Biglino states that the Elohim modified many crops, like the wheat, which was inedible 10,000 years ago, to make it suitable for human consumption, and injected with agrobacterium, the potatoes in South America for the same reason. Even sheep were created genetically, argues Biglino. Don't you find it odd that the sheep require men to survive? If we do not cut their wool every 3 months, they die of suffocation because their wool grows continuously. The sheep were created for us. A peculiar characteristic of the Elohim is that they love the aroma of burnt fat, as mentioned in Leviticus 3:16, which is the same aroma that the ancient Greek gods loved to smell during offerings, a characteristic that is spread all over ancient Greek mythology and other mythologies. Another important aspect is the advanced technology used by the Elohim in the Bible. In Exodus 33:18, Moses asks to see the glory of God. Biglino states that glory should remain untranslated as kayod, and the context will give us the meaning.
Stop making Amazon sellers rich. I hate to tell you this, but every single time you shop on Amazon, you're making someone like me
Context will give us the meaning. From the context that is spread all over ancient Greek mythology and other mythologies. Another important aspect is the advanced technology used by the Elohim in the Bible. In Exodus 33:18, Moses asks to see the glory of God. Biglino states that glory should remain untranslated as kayod, and the context will give us the meaning. From the context, the kayod of God is a physical vehicle that is so powerful that kills whoever sees it. And God cannot control his kayod. As a consequence, when Moses comes down from the mountain, his face is burnt because of the exposure. In Exodus 16:10, the kavod is seen in a cloud, which means that his kavod can also fly. In the book La Caduta degli Dei by Mauro Biglino, he states that the cherubim are vehicles similar to flying motorcycles on which the Elohim sit, that the seraphim are generators of light inside the homes of the Elohim, and that the Ark of Covenant is a generator of electricity. In multiple occasions, states Biglino, the Elohim use weapons of mass destruction, like nuclear bombs, biological and chemical weapons. One example, he thinks, is the destruction of Ur and Sodom and Gomorrah, which is described in Genesis 19:12-29. The Bible, according to Biglino, is one of the many books written by an ancient civilization. The Bible calls our creators Elohim. The ancient Greeks call them Theoi. The Sumerians call them Anunnaki. The Norwegian mythology calls them Aesir, and they are known as Viracocha in the Inca mythology. You may either believe that the content of these books is false and pure fantasy, but how is it possible that everyone came to the same conclusion? Why does every ancient civilization mention that we came from above, from the sons of the stars? Biglino states, we should take into consideration the literal side of the Bible void of its theological interpretation because there are many Elohim in the Bible and there is no God. The literal side of the Bible proved to be fundamental in analyzing the historical events of our past. We discovered the Hittite civilization because it was mentioned in the Bible. It is important to keep our mind open because no matter how absurd something may seem, what matters is obtaining more answers. Heinrich Schliemann was mocked and ridiculed for believing the Iliad and Odyssey were telling a true story, but when he discovered Troy, the city contended by the Trojans and Achaeans in the Iliad, everyone shut up. Heinrich Schliemann found Troy because of the let's pretend that method. If he was as arrogant as the other archaeologists, now Troy would not be discovered. The Hebrew Bible, states Biglino, is a book that has nothing to do with us. It should be relatable only to the Hebrew people. It is a book they wrote for themselves. This book was then improperly adopted, reread, reinterpreted, and re-explained by theologians. The more we read the Bible and the more we study theology, the more we understand that theology talks as if the Bible did not exist. What keeps the church alive is that the Bible, despite being the most solid book in the world, is also the least read of all. And those few people who read it read only a few chapters or verses, and unfortunately, already with the filters of theological education.